So anyway, Simon, thanks very much for talking to us today for Keep Cardiff Live.
You're welcome.
I'm immediately admiring your room. I think there's a picture of Bowie in the background, or two, or maybe more.
Yeah, it's just like a little mural with lots of images of Bowie through his career, really.
Is he a big influence on you musically?
Yeah. Maybe not the biggest, but he's up there, you know. And after meeting him, it was more. It sort of went up a bit, yeah, you know.
Yeah, so immediately I got to ask you, the guy who runs Keep Cardiff Live, he's pretty well obsessed by David Bowie.
No way.
Yeah, he's got posters all over the place as well, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So when you met David Bowie, would that have been maybe during a Stereophonics tour or something like this?
Yeah, it was. It was on Bowie's last tour, actually.
Oh yeah.
It was the reality tour, which was the last time he toured anyway. And we were lucky enough to be the support act on that tour, which was in America. So that was probably the best tour I've ever been on. I've talked about that tour so many times to people. And it was one of those moments where a lot happened on that tour. But it was great, and what a man Bowie was,
So when you first, I mean, obviously being around the Stereophonics, because they moved into that league where they were meeting all these, major stars and all the rest.
Yeah.
Of it. When you first met Bowie, I'm hoping you're going to say you were still a bit nervous about meeting him.
Well, I first met him, actually. We'd met him before that, a couple years later, years before, I should say. He was doing, we'd done a gig called Net Aid. I don't know if you remember a gig called Net Aid they'd done in Wembley.
I do vaguely, yeah. Vaguely.
It was like 99 or something. We were part of that. And the boys were on Performance and Cocktails and the second album.
Yeah.
So we had gone from there, to there in a short space of time.
Yeah.
So we were on that bill, and I got to meet him then, but that was brief. That was him just sipping a cup of tea and me saying hi,
Yeah.
But say on the tour, you're still as nervous as ever when you meet people like that, because it's like, it's David Bowie.
Yeah.
It's Davy Jones.
Yeah.
So fantastic, wonderful guy.
Everybody says that, I mean, I'll never have the pleasure of meeting him. We share a birthday, by the way. That's about the closest.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Never met him, never will meet him. I'm reading the book at the moment by Ian Hunter, who's in Mott the Hoople.
Of course, yeah.
And it's, he's talking about the tour, and of course the links with all the young dudes and everything else.
Oh, I can imagine.
Never heard a bad word about the guy, no matter how big he was.
No. Well, yeah, that was it. And I've been lucky enough to meet lots of my idols, I guess. And not all of them have been been like him, let's just say. So without mentioning too many names. But he was by far and the most down to earth and total guy you'd think you just meet in the street, or meet in a pub and just start chatting with. The thing I liked, do you remember but his little cameo on The Extras with Ricky Gervais?
Oh yeah.
I thought that was perfect. That was how the guy was,
Taking the mick out of himself, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. So when I seen that, I was like, that's exactly how the man was,
Yeah.
So
like you say, sometimes these big stars, maybe, I don't know, I'll take a guess at this with David Bowie. It was he the kind of star who would kind of leave his persona on the stage, sort of thing?
Yes. Yeah, I'd say so. Maybe not 100%.
Yeah.
But probably 95, 96%.
You can have like a normal conversation with him, yeah?
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah. Well, he would have a normal conversation with you. And you'd be the one like, he's having a normal conversation with me, like.
Yeah, beautiful.
So but that's the man he was, and he's sorely missed, obviously, in the business.
Well, I mean, obviously you'd have met, many people over the years. Any other names? I think did you meet the Stones on one occasion?
Well, we toured with the Stones as well.
Yeah.
That was on the I think the tour was called A Bigger Bang. Oh no, 40 Licks the tour was at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
It was the 40th anniversary of something to do with the Stones.
We were.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Who doesn't? We had some great shows with them actually. They were all, apart from one, they were all stadiums.
Okay.
I mean, big stadiums.
Yeah.
You know, they'd done like the Olympic Stadium in, was it Berlin or Munich? Munich, I think it might have been actually, and France. Yeah, mostly Europe with the Stones really, and some great gigs with them.
Obviously, I guess you got to know, you know, Keith Richards' guitar tech and those kind of guys. Did you?
I did. Yeah.
Was that a kind of a, you know, comparing? This is how I do it. This is how you do it, sort of thing.
Well, Keith's guitar tech was actually Welsh.
Okay.
So there was a bit of a connection there when I first met him, and he was from Brecon, and lovely guy. And yeah, I got on really. You learn so much. I mean, that guy had been touring with bands through all that era, you know, 60s and 70s. A lot of bands which I kind of liked, and you know, he used to tech bands like Cream and obviously the Stones and
the
Kinks, and you know, the Who. Lots of big bands at the time of that era. Because I don't think there were so many techs out there then.
No, probably not.
To what it is now, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a tech for everything these days. I mean, as you probably know, but it's yeah, meeting those guys. The Stones, it's some great stories with the Stones actually, and you've heard the Stuart story with the shepherd's pie.
No, I can't. No, I can't remember it.
But it's in Stuart's book. It was we were playing him. I think it was Paris. Yeah, it must have been Paris. And in the catering area, you go to have some. We had done our sound check and we'd gone to have some lunch.
Yeah.
And we were all like walking into this catering area, and there was this.
This might be familiar actually, but keep going. Yeah.
It's a famous story. I think Kelly's told it once or twice as well.
Yeah.
It was in catering, and they had these shepherd's pies like in a line in these trays waiting for people to So Stuart, you know, as Stuart used to just walk in, you know, and shout. Well, he was talking to him, but he was shouting to everybody else.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he went in. He was like, "Oh, I need some of that shepherd's pie. Can I try some of the shepherd's pie?" And the woman behind the counter was like, "No, you're not to do it." And Stuart was like, "Why?" And they walked away, and Stuart went back, and he helped himself to this shepherd's pie and took a piece and went out. But he wasn't supposed to, because nobody is supposed to cut the crust on a shepherd's pie, because it's Keith Richards' shepherd's pie. So that was, and Stuart, being Stuart,
yeah,
didn't give a shit about that. Yeah, so he cut the crust, and he wasn't supposed to it. And there's lots of versions of the story flying around, but if you were there, it was such a moment like, oh, we're going to get thrown off this tour now. for cutting the crust on a shepherd's pie, you know. But it didn't happen. We went up and we met Keith after, and we played snooker, because we used to have a snooker table, the Stones. They probably still do.
Wow.
Keith and Ronnie have a snooker table in their dressing room, a full-size snooker table.
Part of the rider, is it?
It is. That snooker table goes everywhere they go. You know, some bands struggle to get like water and stuff on the rider. You know, the Stones have got full-size snooker tables with balls and a referee. So
wow.
Yeah, it's that's a different level, obviously, of touring to what we were used to at the time.
Did Keith ever know about the pie?
Sorry?
Did Keith know about his pie?
Yeah, apparently so, and but he laughed about it, which was good. I think one of his assistants or something had mentioned it, and I think he was a bit, until he found out who he was, and I think him and Stuart had got on quite well after.
You know, I know Stuart was a really good friend of yours. You know,
yes.
I met him on a number of occasions. I don't really personally know how you couldn't like him.
Know me. Yeah, the most likable bloke ever.
Yeah.
And I could also understand how people maybe.
I mean, he's a bit loud, you know.
Yeah, couldn't. Some people think, oh, you know, he was this, he was that, but he wasn't any of them things that people. He was well, he was just Stuart,
Yeah.
That's the way he was. He was the nicest guy. He'd sign anything for anybody. He'd do anything for anybody if he could. And yeah, you probably obviously met him a few times as well, and
yeah,
with the radio and stuff. And yeah, he was one of the good guys, Stuart. Yeah.
I kind of gravitated towards Stuart, because I interviewed him for Red Dragon, then Radio Wales and Bally's Radio, and got involved in, like I said to you earlier, with the Splash tour, and did all that, and I was at the Coliseum the night that John Brand took over the management. So I really, for what it's worth, at the time, did my very best for them. They didn't really need it; they were going to get it anyway. And then they played that gig at Club Ivor. And I think my line was, because you know this as well as anyone, the A&R guys, how they'll chase a trend, this week's Nottingham.
Yeah.
So they were all there, and
and he was big then.
Yeah,
that was the big thing then. Yeah.
And I said, as I introduced them, I said, the A&R guys, they'll fight over a scrap or a bone, but tonight they're going to get a prime sirloin steak. Welcome to Stereophonics, And it was true, because they were just so wanted, weren't they? It was
they were. Considering nobody wanted them. Maybe barely 3 or 4 months before that.
Yeah,
I mean, the stuff Kelly used to send away, in Chinese cartons, Chinese takeaway cartons, and with tapes and things at every radio station in the country, really. And nobody would touch them. And then I don't actually know where that original buzz came from, though.
No, it just sort of built, didn't it?
Yeah, the scene was already there with the Manics and the Furries and Catatonia and Gorkies and me and Stuart were still listening to Tiger Tails and things like that then, and going to Bogies. Didn't you have something to do with Bogies at one point?
No, I used to go there. I got banned for life from there once, but that's another story. Yeah,
I think I did as well, but
I think he forgets.
Yeah, well, obviously, we were still listening to sort of hard, that sort of rock, and yeah, but then a buzz, it came from when John Brand came on board, obviously, because I think it was Wayne and Gil up until then.
Yeah.
And it had gone so far, I think, with them. And I think Gil moved aside, and then Wayne sort of held on a little bit with John, and then John obviously took over the reins there, and then it all went pretty crazy after that.
I mean, Wayne, my memories of Wayne, really nice guy, and very good at what he did. But,
very good, yeah.
I mean, John Brand, sort of Premier League, really, in that way. He just,
yeah, he came with all the right credentials, let's say.
Yeah.
And he was very respected in the business at the time, obviously. And I mean, the bigger side of the business. And he sort of spoke for himself, really, with John. And fantastic. He worked wonders. He had a plan, and this like 3, 4, 5, 10-year plan, I think he may have had. And even though he didn't last 10 years with the man, but it was. But he had that plan in place. They were going to do this, then they were going to play here, and then we're going to release this single, and then they were going to play, they were going to play Cardiff Castle, and we were all like, yeah, righto. And then the year after, we were going to sell out more of a stadium, and crazy. But it happened. Everything that John actually put into place there actually came off,